Hey, how are you doing, girl? I'm dressed up today. How do you like that? So today is the 9th of December, and I just want to say hello, give you a shout out. Hope things are going well with you today. I'm feeling cozy today. It might be because I'm wearing a sweater vest, and it's not all that cold right now. So maybe that's it. We'll see how this progresses. I might want to take it off if I get too warm. And notice, I don't know if you've noticed, but this is my Harry Potter tie. That's right. So I'm part of Gryffindor, the Gryffindor house, and I'm enjoying my Harry Potter tie right now. And you probably know that I have been listening to many audiobooks relating to Harry Potter lately, J.K. Rowling's book series. And in fact, right now I'm on The Prisoner of Azkaban, and I'm enjoying that immensely. I'm a little surprised that I didn't finish the audiobook yesterday because I was in the car a good 3 hours. The reason was because I traveled to Disneyland. Actually, I traveled to Disneyland the day before yesterday, went to Disneyland yesterday, and then came back last night. And so I spent, in the last 2 days, I've spent, 6 hours in a car. So you'd think that I would have finished the audiobook, but I'll tell you what, I was in the mood to listen to music mostly when I was driving. I love music. I love listening to music when I drive. To me, it's a joy to listen to music, and it's a real pleasure to sort of listen to some tunes, listen to some harmony and beats while I'm driving down the road. To me, that's an ideal way to pass the time. Sometimes I do like listening to talk radio. I'll listen to NPR at times, and other times I'll listen to any audiobooks that I might have available. And I did, in fact, make some progress on the Harry Potter series of books, The Prisoner of Azkaban. And so that's cool. I'm learning about Dementors. I don't know if you know anything about Harry Potter stuff, but I'm a big fan. And I'm also a big fan of Hermione. Hermione's one of my favorite characters. And you actually, Emily, you remind me of Hermione in a lot of ways. Namely, you have a really strong interest in education, and school is important to you. And of course, your friends are important to you. And in many respects, I've seen you act courageously. And those are all traits that the character Hermione displays. And honestly, it reminds me of you. So, and by the way, Hermione has a lot of hair. She's got long locks. And I've seen you with long locks too. And so that's kind of a neat similarity. Also, both your mom and I have Northern European ancestry, and no doubt Hermione. Hermione Granger has Northern European ancestry too. So there we go. There's another aspect in which you two are similar. So that's nice. Um, let's see. So what's going on with me? Well, I went to Disneyland yesterday. I was there all day long, and I had a blast. I was probably there about 13 hours in the amusement park itself. I did go to both amusement parks. I had a park hopper ticket. You pay a little extra, maybe 10, 15, $20 more, and you can move between the parks at will. And I got that. And you know what? It was nice to have. I liked it. I really appreciated seeing the contrast between the two parks on the same day. And let me tell you, the contrast is pretty stark. Yesterday, I spent most of my time at Disney California. And I did that by choice because I didn't know very much about Disney California. I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to learn what attractions were there, the major and the minor attractions. I was curious about the roller coaster. Right now, the theme of the roller coaster is The Incredibles. I think it's called the Incredicoaster, and that was nice. But I found that my favorite ride of all time was the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Oh my gosh. It's very much reminds me of see that other ride that was I actually went to it in Epcot. It was like, was it in Epcot? Um, it's where they drop you, the Tower of Terror. Yeah, I've done the Tower of Terror, and let me tell you, it's terrifying and fun. And this Guardians of the Galaxy is just like that, and I had a blast. And that was the first ride that I went on. It was completely thrilling, and I was excited and yelling as I was falling with everyone in that Tower of Terror type elevator shaft. So fun. Oh my gosh, if I could just relive that experience again and again. In fact, you know what? That experience got me to thinking that I really miss going on roller coasters. And, in fact, I was thinking that to support my interest in the Harry Potter series, I figured that I might go to Universal Studios in Los Angeles to go to the Harry Potter's Wizarding World there. But now, because of my experience of enjoying the roller coaster so much, I've actually been entertaining the idea of perhaps going to Six Flags instead. So I could go to more roller coasters. Now, I think that there are roller coasters at Universal Studios. I'll have to check. I think there are a few, or at least a few moving fast rides. So who knows? Maybe it turns out that Universal Studios might be the place to go after all, for both the thrill of roller coaster riding and Harry Potter, both at the same time. So I really enjoyed my day at Disneyland. I enjoyed the food there. It is incredible how much food is out there. And it's just at every corner there is great food. It tastes really well. One thing I really appreciate about the Disneyland amusement park is that they really do try to do a good job of sort of providing a park where everyone can enjoy their time. It's very what I'd call high performance. It's high performance in that it's easy to tell that Disney is trying really hard to satisfy the visitors there. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that as a guest. And I especially like the live music and the dancing. And there was a lot to be had. And very pleased by the live music. As a person like myself who really enjoys music, so glad to hear a lot of it while I was there. One of the things that I appreciate about this time of year is that it was the holidays. And I like to sing along with the characters who were singing holiday songs. I heard a rendition of Deck the Halls and Jingle Bells and all sorts of other holiday songs. And I really liked it. As you know, I'm a person who likes the Christmas holiday. And so I was really pleased to participate as an audience member, singing and dancing along with the cast members, and enjoying our time together. So it was a good time. And I also had some chocolate. I had a few chocolate pieces, which I honestly don't eat chocolate very often. And so it was nice to indulge. Now, when I say I don't eat chocolate very often, that is a very true statement. Recently, though, I have been trying out soy smoothie using soy milk and some Hershey's sugar-free chocolate syrup. And that's been working pretty well at home. And essentially, that's about it when it comes to chocolate for me. And so, I was really pleased to sample some more chocolate. And thankfully, they have fairly high quality chocolate at Disneyland. And so I was glad to do that. They have their own chocolatiers and people who produce candies there and windows. And so it was really nice to get a taste of the good stuff. Let's see. I like the roller coaster ride, and I did not go on the carousel. Maybe next time I'll do that. But there were a whole lot of other rides that I did go on. It was pretty fun, really chock full of activity. It's just nice to be around crowds of people who are different. There was a lot of people watching opportunities at Disneyland, that's for sure. Lots of people from all over the world, their families. I really enjoyed watching how they dressed, how they interacted with one another. I had a really nice interaction with a child who could not speak. He was using like an iPad tablet to speak to me by pressing icons on his tablet screen. And it was really enjoyable to see his excitement as he was talking to me. I got the sense that he was using his tablet for one of the first times, and he was kind of conveying to me his excitement about being around the dancers. And of course, I personally dance a little bit dancing in the street. And evidently this kid picked up on that and our mutual enjoyment and wanted to express himself. And so nice. It was a really pleasant experience to talk with basically a person who a young person who didn't have the ability to speak, and he was using technology to do so. In fact, I really felt privileged that he chose me to talk to among the hundreds of other people, that he was able to, had the courage and the confidence to come over to a stranger and strike up a conversation despite him not being able to speak. And it was a nice time. Let's see. I always think that, this drive is going to be a challenge, right? To go from Lompoc to Los Angeles to Anaheim specifically to go to Disneyland. It's true. The drive was about 3.5 hours long. And it was no big deal. Honestly, it was no big deal. I could have driven there and back same day. In fact, next time I go to Disneyland, I might very well do that. What I did was about 2 days ago, I went to a hotel, made sure that I had a really nice morning continental breakfast at the hotel so that I was fully nourished when I got to the amusement park, and I was ready to go. I had showered and I was just ready to go, ready to have some fun, filled with excitement. And, maybe instead next time, to save a few bucks. And this hotel wasn't very expensive. It was only like $86. So it was a real deal. And I think though next time I might give it a try to drive there and drive back in the same day. That sounds a little bit outrageous now that I think about it, just the logistics of it, right? The 3.5 hours there, 3.5 hours back, that's 7 hours of driving. Plus, let's call it 12 hours of walking around a park. So, that is a full day, to say the least. Maybe not. $86 for a hotel room is not a bad deal. Not a bad deal at all. Certainly not in Anaheim, down in Los Angeles. I think the way I think of it is I got a deal. A steal is what it was. So I think I'm going to go to amusement parks a little more often now. Yeah. So I figured what I would do is I would read again from this book, right? We're doing a segment called Panatti's Extraordinary Origins of Everyday Things. And this is a book that I used to read when I was a young boy. And I really enjoyed it. And it's the memory of it has stuck with me over the years. And I learned a lot from it. And I figured that I would pass some of this knowledge on to you. So one subject that I figured we'd address today is cough drops. And this book tells me that cough drops originated 1000 BC in Egypt. You know, when I came back, after I came back from Disneyland, I honestly was feeling a little nauseous here and there. And I'm pretty sure I might have at least partly caught a flu bug while I was there. Now, I have a flu shot every year, and so I protect my health that way. And so after a couple hours, the flu shot kicked in, I'm pretty sure, and the flu bug went away. And so I am unaffected and completely healthy today. So the slight nausea went away. And so I'm really pleased. But again, I'm reminded that this is the time when a lot of people get sick. And a lot of people get the flu. They get a cold, particularly in amusement parks. It's so easy for bugs like the flu and cold to spread at amusement parks, just because there are so many people there from all over the world visiting temporarily. Lots of exchange of water droplets through sneezes or coughs or touching people's hands or people's hands touching a common object like a doorknob or maybe even a drinking water fountain or a table or a chair. And so it's very easy for viruses and colds to be transmitted in places like this. And, it just reminds me about, the season. This is the cold and flu season that we're in. And I figured learning a little bit about cough drops might be a lot of fun. Personally, I don't use cough drops very often. I use them very rarely. Like, I haven't really been sick for like the last 3 years with the cold or flu. But I remember times when I used to get sick and have coughs that lingered for long periods of time. Cough drops really hit the spot. Sometimes they are needed. It's the thing about having a cold is that quite often the coughs linger, and they linger for a long time, and it can get bothersome, somewhat bothersome, when you're in a work setting or in some other quiet setting like studying in school or in a library. And you just don't want to cough for one reason or another. Maybe you're part of some kind of artistic in an artistic venue with music or play acting. It's just not good manners to be coughing all the time. And so I've used cough drops to some good effect, the menthol cough drops. And I hear that chocolate, in fact, I was just talking about chocolate. Chocolate is excellent at suppressing coughs, even more excellent than a lot of prescription medications, I hear. I know that there's this codeine concoction. Codeine is what is codeine? I think codeine is a kind of pain reliever. And I know doctors prescribe it a lot in some cough suppressant formula. They will prescribe the codeine along with what's called an expectorant. An expectorant makes your mucous membranes produce more mucus. And the two in combination have a beneficial effect on the frequency of coughing. I have heard that chocolate is an even better remedy for suppressing cough or for cough than even the codeine concoction. And believe it or not, I've actually used chocolate to that effect. And in fact, it worked. I found that it worked, but it's not something that you could take very frequently because here's the thing about chocolate. It's high, it's got a very high caloric density. And that's the reason you can't eat it all the time. If a person ate, say, a chocolate bar, or say a half or a quarter chocolate bar every 3 hours or something during the day, that's a lot of chocolate. That's maybe one chocolate bar a day for 20 or 30 days. That'll put a significant dent into your dietary intake, and you could definitely gain weight doing that. So using chocolate is probably not a practical solution, except in very specific circumstances where moderation is the key. Moderation and effectiveness. So, yeah, it's cough drop time for a lot of people, not myself, thankfully. So let's read about its origin. So a cough's main purpose is to draw the air passage of inhaled foreign matter, chemical irritants, or during a head cold, excessive bodily secretions. The coughing reflex is part voluntary, part involuntary, and drugs that reduce the frequency and intensity of coughs are called cough suppressors, or technically antitussives. That reminds me, there are a lot of medications that have that tuss as a prefix or suffix, like Robitussin, for example. And I think there's another one. There might even be cough drops just called Tuss or something. I forget what. But yeah, antitussives. I'd be interested to know what the etymology of the word tuss is in the word antitussives. Many of these modern suppressor chemicals, like the narcotic codeine, act in the brain to depress the activity of its cough center, reducing the urge to cough. Oh, okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Another group of older suppressors acts to soothe and relax the coughing muscles in the throat. This has typically been the action of the oldest known cough drops, produced for Egyptian physicians by confectioners 3,000 years ago. It was in Egypt's New Kingdom during the 20th dynasty that confectioners produced the first hard candies. Lacking sugar, which would not arrive in the region for many centuries, Egyptian candy makers began with honey, alternating its flavor with herbs, spices, and citrus fruits. Sucking on the candies was found to relieve coughing. The Egyptian ingredients were not all that different from those found in today's sugary lozenges, nor was the principle by which they operated, moistening an irritated, dry throat. The throat-soothing candy underwent numerous minor variations in different cultures. Ingredients became the distinguishing factor. Elm bark, eucalyptus oil, peppermint oil, and horehound are but a few of the ancient additives. Let me take a moment. I did at one point take elm lozenges, and I found that elm and elm bark didn't really taste very good. It doesn't have a strong taste in particular for me. I wasn't able to taste it. I also found that it wasn't very effective for me. Eucalyptus oil, I don't think I've ever used that, but of course, I love the smell of eucalyptus trees. I wasn't quite sure. I didn't quite realize that that was used as a cough suppressant. Peppermint oil, of course, I like peppermint tea. Peppermint herbal tea is wonderful. Looks like that is a cough suppressant or an antitussive. And horehound. But not until the 19th century did physicians develop drugs that addressed the source of coughing, which is the brain. And these first compounds that depressed the brain's coughs reflex were opiates. Morphine, an alkaloid of opium, which is the dried latex of unripe poppy blossoms, was identified in Germany in 1805. Toward the close of the century, in 1898, chemists first produced heroin, diacetylmorphine, a a simple morphine derivative. Both agents became popular and, for a time, easily avoidable or available through as cough suppressants. A 1903 advertisement touted glycoheroin as medical science's latest respiratory sedative. That is very true. Heroin is a respiratory sedative. In fact, if you take too much heroin, you may stop breathing. But doctors' increasing awareness of the dangers of dependency caused them to prescribe the drugs less and less. Today, a weaker morphine derivative, codeine, methylmorphine, continues to be used in suppressing serious coughs. Since high doses of morphine compounds cause death by arresting respiration, didn't I just say that? It's not hard to understand how they suppress coughing. That's right. Let's suppress the urge to breathe. That'll help us reduce the amount of coughing we do, right? Of course. Love that logic, right? Morphine compounds opened up an entirely new area of cough research. And pharmacologists have successfully altered opiate molecules to produce synthetic compounds that suppress a cough with less risk inducing a drug euphoria or dependency. Really? They've also done the opposite. If you can, hence I'm referencing fentanyl and other drugs like that. But these sophisticated remedies are reserved for treating serious life-threatening coughs and are available only by prescription. Millions of cold sufferers every winter rely on the ancient remedy of the cough drop. In America, two of the earliest commercial products, still popular today, appeared during the heyday of prescribing opiate suppressors. Wow. Pretty amazing stuff. And what is interesting to me is that they did not discuss or even touch on what is in a lot of cough drops, and that is menthol. Menthol is somewhat effective at reducing cough. Next, there's a little caption to this image here in the book. I think I'll just read it. Turn of the century remedies, throat atomizer top, nasal model, various lozenges for coughs, hoarseness, halitosis, and constipation. Syringe for when tablets fail. Wow, a syringe. Golly. And what's this connection between coughing and constipation? One thing that I think is somewhat interesting is just how things joined together in the past, right? The way that we categorize medicine today is different than the categorization of medicine years ago. We were talking about barbershops a moment ago, or a couple days ago. I forget in what context we were talking about barbershops, but barbershops, they, like 100 years ago, they used to do other things besides cut hair. They used to, at a barbershop, I think one thing that would happen to you was you could have leeches applied and your blood removed via leeches. At barbershops, I think they also used to do aspects of dentistry. So you could get a haircut and you could have your teeth pulled at the same appointment at the barbershop. In fact, I think the barber pole, the red and white barber pole, was an indicator of barbers who did dentistry, and that the white was a reference to the bandages that were used, and the red was a reference to the blood that left your body during the barber's operating on you. So yeah. So isn't it interesting? And I find it quite interesting that those kind of operations or activities, health activities, were performed by barbers. Essentially, dentistry performed by barbers. Now, that's a connection I wouldn't have necessarily made. And the same is true with the connection between cough suppressors and constipation. I'm honestly not sure what the connection is, though. What could the connection be between cough suppressing and constipation? People with the flu, in fact, have the opposite problem of constipation. So, it's pretty interesting. I can imagine a time when in the future, people categorize health information different than we categorize it today. Just as we categorize it different from the way health information was categorized in the past. So I'm curious what the new standards for categorization might be in the future. My guess is it might come down to or start relating more to types of ailments that can be treated with gene therapy or immunotherapy or high technology therapies. Perhaps like I can imagine a whole discipline related to 3D modeling, right? 3D printing. I can imagine people's hearts and lungs and appendages like arms and legs being 3D printed. And I can imagine a whole technology, a whole health industry related to 3D printing. And I totally see that. And I can also see a whole health industry related to gene modification. Yeah. So we'll see. There might even be a whole industry related to robotics, being cyborg and artificial intelligence and prosthetics. I mean, I can only imagine what the health industry is going to look like in 50 years. I think it'll be different than it is today. And I can imagine a person in the future saying, like, I can't believe that you had your gene therapy done at hospitals, which I believe is where gene therapy occurs today. Or I can imagine, I can imagine a person of the future saying, I can't believe that, well, anyway, you get my point. Okay, so I figured I might as well go on to the next segment where I answer questions. It's a Q&A session where, Emily, you get to hear me answer questions about who I am and what I've been thinking about lately and what's going on with me. And they're generated, these questions I've got in a book, in a Kindle ebook. The reason I do this is because, we are somewhat separated in our lives, and you basically just don't have a chance to get to know me very well. And so this, for me, is an opportunity for us to connect, for you to learn about my preferences and my ideas, my history. I figured it would benefit you. This is part of the way that I support you, and I support us together. And it's essentially a chance that you have to learn from me, and for your children to learn from me, and your children's children. Okay, so question number 18. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you sing? So, first, I don't sing very often. I tend not to sing very much. When I was a boy, I used to sing a lot because I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and every day that we were at church, so to speak, we would sing before and in the middle and at the end of service. So that's singing a song about 5 minutes long every time I went to church, 3 times each church congregation meeting. So that's a lot, particularly when you consider the idea that there were about 4 or 5 meetings every week that Jehovah's Witnesses went to. So that's a lot of singing. And so I had the opportunity to do lots of singing when I was a boy. And that experience was very valuable to me. And I can appreciate today just how beneficial that was, how much of a wonderful opportunity that was to sing as a young child. A lot of kids don't get a chance to sing. It's certainly not as often as I did. And in fact, I think I could be quite an accomplished singer with that kind of background if I clean up my act and practice singing more often. In fact, that is a long-term goal of mine, and that is to develop a greater skill at singing. You know, I think I have a voice that favors singing. It is somewhat resonant, certainly in the lower octaves. You know, I might be who knows, I might be a tenor. I don't think I'm low enough to be a bass, but I think, who knows, maybe I am a bass. I couldn't tell you. I haven't had any training in singing. One thing I do enjoy, though, is I enjoy listening to YouTube videos and doing karaoke. And in fact, during the Christmas time is a great time to do karaoke because you get to perform a lot of Christmas songs during this time of year. So, you know, the more I talk about it, the more I am reminded of my own goal of learning to sing better. And I really need to start devoting some energy to that skill. So I didn't answer the question. I spoke for like 5 minutes, but didn't answer the question. The question is on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you sing? So I'm going to count 1 as being the worst singing that anyone has ever heard, and 10 being the best singing that anyone has ever heard. Say singing by Lady Gaga, perhaps. I'm just kidding. So I would guess that I'm a good 5 or 6, maybe 7. Well, no, not 7. That's a pretty high mark. I would say about 4. You know, I'm not going to embarrass you when you listen to me sing, nor will I embarrass others when I'm singing in a large group. So I do okay. Here's the thing, though. I really don't sing very often. And in fact, today I'm somewhat shy when it comes to singing. Next question, question 19. When you're alone at home, do you wear shoes, socks, slippers, or go barefoot? So the answer to that question is that I wear shoes. I wear shoes pretty much everywhere I go. For me, I wear them mainly for foot protection. I have banged my toes into walls and doors and bedposts and you name it. Too many times to count, and I need some way to protect my toes because I'm always banging my feet into stuff. Very easy to do. And so, yeah, I wear shoes. Now, there are a lot of people who just wear socks or go barefooted, and I have a hard time. I would have a hard time doing that. Here's the thing about socks. It's slippery. It's slippery out there. It's slippery on carpet. It's slippery on like nylon flooring. You know, it's just not safe with socks. You know, I need traction. I need traction so that I can prevent myself from falling over. And I also need protection. You know, socks do not offer a lot of protection against harm. It's very easy to step on something that's sharp or pointed and end up with some kind of injection injury, right? And yeah, so I think for those 2 main reasons, the foot protection reason and the slippery reason, I just don't want to slip, trip, or fall. And so I don't glide around on socks, and nor do I spend a lot of time barefoot. Yeah. Another thing is slippers. You'd think, well, Miguel, why not just wear slippers? I personally have a hard time justifying slippers. If I'm going to attach something to my feet, I'm going to do it right the first time, right? I'm I'm not never in such a rush where I need to hurry that process up. You know, I securely fasten shoes to my feet every morning, and they're stuck there all day long. And it works for me. It just works for me. I don't have to worry about shuffling the slippers on and off as I change activities. They're just always on. And so that's hyper convenient. At least it's hyper convenient for me. And that's all I need. In fact, that's a bonus. It's a bonus that shoes are hyper convenient. I only have to put them on or take them off one at a time. Next question. Question number 20. What are the advantages and disadvantages of being your height? Well, that's interesting. So my height is 5'7". And at least some time ago, I tried to measure it more accurately than that. And I got my height to be about 5'7.25". Now, I don't know where my height stands now. I'm sure a lot of it has to do with things like whether I'm measuring in the morning or in the evening, or whether I'm measuring maybe what surface I'm standing on, maybe how good my posture is at the moment. So I know how those numbers can shift and change slightly. So what are the benefits, the pros and cons of being my height? Well, here's the thing. Even though I think of myself as being plenty tall, and in fact, rather tall when I think about it, my height is what I'd call slightly below average for the average American male. And I think also when it comes to the Western model of beauty, the Western standard of beauty, my height is somewhat shorter than the ideal. And believe it or not, it doesn't bother me very much. You know, I am somewhat aware that because of my slightly shorter stature, that sometimes I get screened out of some social activities here and there, or social interactions here and there. I don't think it plays a really huge role. I think I'm talking about the pros and cons here. I think that there is some impact, but I think it's slight, fairly slight. I'm talking about impact for being the height that I am. Now, would I like to be slightly higher, maybe like 5'9" or 5'10" or 5'11"? Yeah, sure. I'd love to be 6 feet. But that desire is not a deep and desperate one. It's just something of a preference, and it's a preference I don't think about very often. You know what? I don't know what it is why human beings have this fascination with being closer to average, or even above average, particularly in a body feature that is so incidental. It's like, having ears slightly larger than average, or slightly smaller than average, or a nose slightly larger or slightly smaller than average. Apparently, there are people who really, really, really focus on these distinctions really strongly. I haven't been one to do that myself. Though I'm sure that there are others who do, who think carefully about the subject. Um, Personally, I think I'm rather tall. I look down at my feet and notice that they are far away. They're really down there. And, you have to realize too that people have been getting taller and taller over the millennium with better nutrition and better access to medical care, better diets. People are growing taller, and I expect people to grow even taller still in the future. Absolutely. So I don't think that, I think that is generally the direction that humankind is going. I think we're all having children that are even taller than we are. And that trend will probably continue for a long time, maybe another 100, 200 generations. We'll see how that goes. Yeah. Next question. Question number 21. When was the last picnic you went on? Describe it. Well, the last picnic I went on was maybe about 2 or 3 months ago. It was probably La Mesa Park in Santa Barbara, where I would get together with some of my dancing friends. And I haven't done that in a few months, and it might be good to go ahead and start doing that again. We'll see. I think that was the last picnic that I went to. Yeah. I'm finding that I really enjoy picnics. I enjoy them, I think, partly because they're unusual. Quite often they're not highly planned. So there's this unscripted aspect to picnics. And I really appreciate that because it gives me a sense that people's interactions at a picnic are from the heart. It's sort of not pre-planned. I have a vision that picnics are a very authentic type of way of setting, an authentic setting for people to get together. Yeah. What I also like is how informal picnics are compared to other forms of dining. Other forms of dining are much more formal. And when you're in an environment that's formal, quite often what happens a lot is that people start inhibiting their behavior. They will decide what they say. They'll take more care in what they say and do, and so there's some inhibition. People are constrained in dining settings that are more formal. And I like to set that aside at least every once in a while, particularly when you're getting together with friends who, how you have an interest in connecting with. You want to connect with them in an honest and open way. Connect with them in a way that, was sort of unscripted, right? And that's why I like picnics. And of course, there's also the natural beauty that surrounds you when you're in a picnic setting. So that's always pleasant. Instead of people watching television or reaching for their cell phones at the dinner table, there are other things to see. Maybe there's a sunset, a beautiful tree nearby, grass, maybe an ocean. You've got that extra dimension of an environment that's worth looking at. Whereas when you're in a dining room setting, essentially what you've got is four walls surrounding you that are colored white and a ceiling that's colored white too. And so, with such a benign environment, it's not as stimulating. Yeah. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 22. How many discount or savings coupons do you clip in an average month? How many expire before you use them? Okay. So here's the thing. I'm really not into coupon clipping. Now, that's not to say I've never been into it. There was a time when I was really into coupon clipping, and the purpose was just for fun. In fact, I had joined a few websites that specialize in cutting coupons. For me, it was an exercise in learning and growth. I wanted to know what coupons were and how to use them. I wanted to get confidence using them. I also I just wanted to learn about what it was, and maybe in the process I could learn a more efficient and effective way to shop for myself, one that was more economical or efficient. And I didn't find that that was true at all. It was such a hassle. There were so many factors to consider. I remember I essentially bought a briefcase that had a lot of different slots in it. And I would put different kinds of coupons in each slot. And in order to do a good job before I went shopping, I had to rifle through each slot and choose coupons that would make sense for that shopping trip. And believe it or not, it took a lot of time. Well, I think you can believe it. And so, maybe it had to do with my methodology, right? Maybe that's what was making it such a challenge. I don't know. Hey, by the way, I am going to quit this right now because I've got an idea that I want to talk about in a separate video. So, Em, if you can give me some, if you can forgive me, I'm going to cut this video up a little short, cut it a little short, and I want to talk about another subject in a different video. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. I love you very much, and peace.